Hi everyone, so I'm here to start our first little lesson and we're going to be talking about the properties of the hair and scalp, and you can find that in the chapter 11 of the textbook, which I will post on the Google Classroom so that you can have a look at some of the terminology and to clarify anything that I'm going to write here on the board for you. Okay, so let's get started. So the study of hair, is called trichology. Okay, so in the Greek terminology, trichos means hair, ology means the study of. But if we break that down even further, tri means three. And so that brings up the three main layers of the hair. So if you're looking at a hair strand, so if I'm just popping a hair out and I'm looking at a hair strand with my eyes, it just basically looks like a long tubular strand of hair. And if we chop it in the middle and then turn it around, you'll see it like three rings on a tree. You know how you can tell the age of a tree. So what you'll see are three circles, like so. Okay, so the outer layer would represent that feeling and what we see when we look at a strand of hair right in front of us, and that part is called the cuticle. So the cuticle is the outer layer, and it contains, so I'm going to draw that here, it contains overlapping cells. So they overlap each other almost in the same way that shingles would overlap each other on a rooftop of your house. Okay, so they have these overlapping layers, and these layers can open and they can close. Okay, so a high pH level in certain chemicals like a permanent hair color or a perm solution or a relaxer would swell and lift those layers up to expose the next layer of the hair, which is the middle layer, which is called the cortex. Okay, so the cortex is the middle layer. And I like to say that the cortex is responsible for almost everything. So everything happens in the cortex. So it contains the natural hair color pigment, which we call melanin. It is responsible for elasticity, so the ability of hair to stretch and return. And everything that happens to the hair when we style it happens because of or is affected by the cortex. Okay? The last layer of the hair here, the innermost layer, is called the medulla. Okay, so this is the innermost. And the medulla is fairly useless when it comes to hairstyling. So it doesn't really have a responsibility. It's more of a space keeper. People with really fine hair, chances are, don't have a medulla, and that's okay. Again, not really responsible for anything in hairstyling, so that's okay. So these are the three main layers of the hair. We're going to move on to what the hair is made of. So hair is approximately made of 90% of it is made up of a protein called keratin. So it's a fiber and it's a protein, and 9% of the hair is made of that protein, and it's called keratin. So I'm going to try and move this over to the other half of the board here. Okay, so the hair, the mature strand of hair, so if we're looking at my hair, we'll do it this side. A mature strand is usually divided into two parts. So this part of the hair would be called the hair shaft. So this is the part that we style, that we color, all of that. And then the part that is touching the scalp or the skin, if we're looking at a strand of hair on our arm, let's say, that part is called the root. So that's where we get, we have to get our roots done from. And so those are the two divisions. So you've got the hair shaft and the hair roots. So we're gonna have a look at the structure of the hair. So write that here. So structure of hair. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to slowly draw a diagram of the hair, and then we're gonna label it, and I'll tell you a little bit about each part of the hair, okay? So what I want you to imagine is that we've got some skin, and we've got a strand of hair, which is the hair shaft, coming out the top part of the skin, and then what's happening underneath the skin is what I'm going to be drawing as well, okay? So try and follow along, and maybe draw this on your own also. So we've got the hair, so we've got the top part of the hair, which is the hair shaft, and then we're moving into the lower part. Okay, I'm gonna erase a little bit here and a little bit here. Okay, and so that's our little diagram of the hair, and we are going to label it. So if you imagine that this is a strand of hair coming out of my arm, this part here, we've already labeled the two main parts of that, or we've already mentioned that. So this is your hair shaft, and this right here is your hair root. Now the hair root is the part that is just below the top layer of the skin, so the top layer of the skin, and that's called the epidermis. Below the epidermis would be another layer of skin, and that's called the dermis. Or dermal layer, you'll hear people say the dermal layer. So in the dermal layer, you'll find all these other parts of the hair. So each strand of hair has a little bottom part that's just a little wider, and that's called the bulb. Okay? Now the bulb is fed by the papilla. So the papilla provides nourishment and blood supply, which then in turn helps new hair to grow and push this hair out. So this is the papilla. Okay. Each strand of hair is encased in its own little vase. Okay, so that would be this little area here that protects each strand of hair, and that's called a follicle. On either side, and sometimes it's on the same side, but I've kind of separated so it's easier to look at in a diagram. But on either side, there's something on this side, a muscle that is attached to the follicle. So it reacts to like really cold and contracts the follicle. And it's basically what happens when you get a goosebump. Okay, so you can say, my erector pili muscle is contracting. And giving you goosebumps, right? So this is your erector pili muscle. Erector pili muscle. And on the opposite side, I drew this little cloud looking thing. And this is called the sebaceous gland. And the sebaceous gland is responsible for providing a special type of oil to the hair. So this kind of squeezes oil into the follicle, and it's what gives us that greasy feeling on the top part of our hair, okay? It's a very special oil, and it's called sebum. Okay, now this oil is what keeps our hair healthy. So you'll find people with long hair, such as myself, the sebum won't reach maybe anything lower to about here. And so sometimes we complain, oh, my hair is so greasy, that kind of thing, but that grease, that sebum is actually really, really good to keep your hair healthy. So if you've got a natural bristle brush, you would take that sebum and you would try and spread that below as far down as it can go to keep your hair healthy. So this is why our ends are usually a little more dry than our roots, because it doesn't have access to the sebum. A good trick for long hair is to take your ends and to actually rub it into your roots every now and then, just to help to distribute that oil. So we've got the structure of the hair, we've labeled each part, we know the three main layers of the hair, okay? And this is all important to know because we need to know and be able to tell people, our clients, people that we are working on, what is happening and where it's happening. So this is step one into understanding the structure of the hair and being able to understand why.